You're listening to the County Line Podcast, a production of the Tulsa County Board of County Commissioners.
All right, Tulsa County Commissioner Lonnie Sims, District 2. Welcome to the County Line Podcast. Great to have our Tulsa County Emergency Management Director, Mr. Bill Smiley, in the house today.
Yes,
We've
welcome.
got my Deputy Chief, Mark Van Kuren, is pinch hitting in case I fall out and need somebody to pick me up. I know he's always here to do that, so I appreciate both of you being here today. Going to talk about some good stuff, voluntary buyout. We talk about a lot. I don't think the people in the county really know as much about it as I hope we can kind of convey to them today. And really that's what this podcast is all about, is getting information out about the buyout program. It's something that we've really taken to another level since you've come on board. And October 2025 is when you came on board, and we had a ton of applications for this program that were lingering and had been lingering really since the 2019 Arkansas flood event. And maybe that's where we need to kind of start with a little history of how did the voluntary buyout program come about? Let us know.
Okay. So the 2019 flooding was some of the most severe flooding that we've had in this area. Obviously, the 84 and 86 floods, the Memorial Day floods were very bad as well. 84. But so what happened is after the 2019 flooding, we had a team that got together, and I know you guys were members of that group, and we met and decided that we needed to make an application for the flood buyout program. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is through HUD, and the other one is through FEMA. We chose the HUD route.
Because when you say HUD, that is?
Yeah, Housing and Urban Development through the Department of Commerce. So we made the application through the Department of Commerce, and a few years later, we received some funds to start the buyout program. Initially, it was $14 million, and we started making requests for people to put in their applications online, or certainly can call our office. But so that's how it started.
And you're very much involved in that, and I just want to highlight that because I think as a state total, we received like $35 million?
Yeah, it was about. We've got the anticipating potential to have that much. Initially, it was 14.
I think it was $32 million.
Right.
And so Tulsa County got almost half of that.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was awarded to the state, Tulsa County ended up getting, close to, I think
14 and some change.
Yep, 14.3, I believe, is what we got. So almost half of that. So it's kind of a testament to the team that got put together that really
absolutely
went and lobbied for that money and put in a good, solid application.
Yeah, that's really what it's about, is the entire team. We have a project management team that goes through and makes sure we're getting all the work done that needs to be done, that we've got a quality assurance program, that we're making sure that applications are received and processed as they're supposed to, and then helping the applicants all the way through the process to the end. I think that's the biggest thing. Our team's been really good at that. My job as a director is obviously to keep the commissioners informed, to keep the public informed about what we're doing, which is great with this podcast, giving them access to the information so they can apply, but certainly to make sure that if there's any bottlenecks in the program that we're resolving those as quickly as we can. And we did have some when I initially arrived. So we got those resolved, and we're moving right along. The states had so much confidence in us that they've already given us an additional $2.5 million for our
program. Which is tremendous.
Yeah, we feel really good about that. And, the biggest thing to feel good about, I think, is the ability to help the public, right? To change people's lives is really the way we feel. And I think for emergency management, that's really what it's about, is thinking about how you're going to help the people locally, and what can you do as a public servant to make sure that is occurring no matter what, right? That's the biggest priority. So, and I appreciate all the support that I've gotten from everybody here. It's really helped. So,
well, appreciate your leadership tremendously. Just to kind of add a little more to the history, you were really with the Tulsa Army Corps of Engineers. You were with the Tulsa district back then. Me and Mark were both at the State House. We did a full interim study on the Arkansas River flood event, and brought all stakeholders to really come to bear. And what did we do right? What did we do wrong?
Right.
What we found was the state doesn't have a flood problem. We've got a disaster problem.
Right.
And it really, from wildfires to ice storms to, what we experienced in 2019 with the flood event. And it was really, how can we better align all the, the levels of government and the different, even the tribal.
Right.
We've got to bring those partners in as well, because they have emergency responders and managers that are throughout the state. And really that collaboration has led to garnering some of the federal resources and going after it, because a lot of people don't understand that part of the disaster declaration, and that's really what triggers this, is a presidential disaster declaration. A lot of this comes with financial support. Sometimes it requires matching dollars to gain that. And as a state, unfortunately, disasters are kind of our bumper crop, and we need to find a way to capitalize on it so we can rebuild these communities, build back in resilience. And that's what the flood buyout program, really, when I look at it, is doing here. It's getting people out of harm's way, moving them out of the floodway, out of the floodplain. And I believe it's the 100-year. Is that the guy?
1%.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is it primarily FEMA maps? Is that kind of? It
is primarily the FEMA maps that we're using. Yeah, absolutely. And so they kind of guide our entire process between FEMA and HUD to make sure that we're getting the people that need the buyout program the most, the information to participate. So
one of the things that I saw that was kind of new, disaster risk reduction areas.
Right.
That was something new that kind of came out of this DRRA.
Right.
And I think it's the federal government recognizing that we've got to get people out of harm's way.
Right.
So how do we best initiate that? And I think there was really two eligibility requirements: low to moderate income, and then urgent need.
Right.
And I think that was, if I remember right, this is really where we were kind of hung up, is we really addressed the low to moderate income. We hadn't pivoted to the urgent need, which is really the second phase. And is that kind of where we're at now with the buyout program?
We are, absolutely. So the requirement is that we meet a certain threshold for the low to moderate income before we can start on the urgent need, which, if I had the chance, I would say we should do urgent need first, right? And then low to moderate income. But what it is what it is. And we got through that and made sure we sped that as fast as possible could to get to the urgent need, right? So so that's where we're at right now, is the urgent need applications, and that's moving along well. Even to the point, I think if we're able to, we'll apply for some more grant funds at the end of the year, probably through building resilience in communities, and hopefully we can get to some more of those.
And that's
folks.
BRIC.
Yes,
often
sir. BRIC. Yes,
BRIC
sir.
grants.
Yeah. So we just take advantage of anything that we've got that's tribal or whatever it is with our partners. I think that's probably the biggest thing to mention, is that tribal partners or local partners are so important to us. And I mention every day just that response is our grade, right? That's how well we've done preparing and mitigating and and all those things. So I think we're better than we were, absolutely, in 2019. But we're always striving to be the very best that we can, being the second largest county in Oklahoma. So we don't want to be first; we just want to be the best. So in response and taking care of our local community. So that's what we're striving for. Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of information that's out there to the public. I'm not sure, how familiar they are with the process. We've done a good job of applications, and it's easy to find that on the dashboard. We actually have a dashboard which has a heat map. It wasn't just the Arkansas River that flooded. You had Bird Creek, you had Snake Creek, you had different areas around Tulsa County, and the dashboard kind of gives you an idea of where kind of those hot zones were, where we had a lot of people throughout that. But I believe it's tulsacounty.org, and it's under the Tulsa County Emergency Management tab.
Yes, sir.
But if you just Google Tulsa County
buyout,
Volunteer Flood Buyout, it should take you right there. I know you may explain some of the resources that are there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
links.
Yeah. So one of my goals when I started was transparency, and we talked about it during the interview. And so this is one of the resources that we're using to be transparent to the public, so they can see exactly where we're at with the program, where the money's being spent. And then they have an opportunity. There's a link on that page. If you just Google up Tulsa County Buyout, you'll see it. There's an application link, and they can click on that link, and they can start the application process. So what I've asked the team to do is not just stop there, because for example, filing your taxes, not easy, right? So these programs are not easy to apply for. They use a lot of acronyms. So people who need assistance, my phone number's on there. They can call that. That's also our EOC duty officer. And then I will get them in touch with the subject matter experts who will walk them through how to fill out their application to make sure it's completed timely. And then I've also instructed the team to make sure that they're following up with people, whatever step they're at, to make sure they're moving along.
Yeah, I think that's critical. A lot of people, it's challenging. I mean, you fill out grants all the time. I know we saw them at the state level. A lot of these applications you read, it's like reading a foreign language, and it can be very daunting and really discouraging to a lot of people who are out there. The important thing is we have resources here, people available, experts that are going to help walk them through and guide them through there. And appreciate your efforts. You mentioned the $3 million additional dollars that we were able to secure from the state this year, which pushes us up to, I think we got $6.3 million left in that program as is. We've expended $10.3 million to date, which is outstanding. That's, those are lives that, are going to be in a safer position, that aren't going to be impacted in the future. And, when you think about that entire event was a $3 billion loss event for the state of Oklahoma. And so by getting these properties out of harm's way, people out of harm's way, you limit the risk to our emergency responders. You minimize the amount of loss and cost. Those dollars can be expended on roads, which we definitely like paving in District 2 and other types of infrastructure. So really appreciate just everybody's coming together. But the important thing for people to understand is there's resources here that are available to help step and walk you through. There is still an opportunity. And as you mentioned with BRIC and some of these other things, there could be possibly more money coming. Correct. So continue to submit your applications. One thing I did want to ask you about is, I know the period of performance for this particular program was from December 6th of 2022 to December 5th of this year. Right. Is there expiration on this? I mean, what does that mean, the period of performance? Right.
So every grant has a period in which the grant needs to be executed. And so the period of performance, we call it the POP, obviously another acronym. But that is typically the end date for the grant, when you're supposed to have everything wrapped up and completed. And we go through some QA processes. And as a matter of fact, we're having HUD come next month to do an assessment of how we're doing. And we welcome that, because our team is good at what we do. Sure. So, but the POP can be extended, and that's what we're working on right now, because we received some extra money. We're trying to extend it. We're going to get extended to 2027. That was part of the deal with the state when we talked to them. We're going to need more time, more money, and to do all that. And folks can still apply. Here's the thing, is that you never know where additional funds are going to come in. We're going to keep fighting wherever we hear about money that's available for our communities. And that means that if you apply, you're in the queue, right? You're there. And if you don't get selected right now because somebody has a higher need or whatever, or there's also opportunities if somebody, when the paperwork is getting done, maybe they find something about their end income that's a hiccup, just like a mortgage. Sure. Then you move up. Right. So it's always important to apply, and we tell people just keep applying, and we'll see if we can't run towards daylight on that.
Now, once they put in an application, to your point, they're in the queue, so they don't need to reapply at that point.
Do not.
Do they need to periodically follow up, or is that something we're going to do for them automatically?
We are going to do that. We're going to do that for them. But there's, I receive calls that, hey, where is my thing? Where is my application? I mean, what's going on with a specific element or whatnot? So our contractor, we have a phone number with the contractor. I give the public the contractor's phone number. And so we're hands-on. And so we're going to make sure that they get in touch with somebody, a talking person, that'll walk them through the process and let them know what to do. Yeah.
Well, that was a success story, too. We hold a monthly District 2 breakfast, and where anybody from the community can come in, and it's really get a lot of directors that come in and share information about projects we have going on in District 2. More importantly, it's about the public being able to access their leaders within the county, and if there's issues out there, bring them to our attention, give us an opportunity to address them. And, one of the first, I think, breakfasts we had a gentleman who had been tied up in the buyout program for a significant amount of time.
Yes, he had. One of the first.
And appreciate you stepping right in and that was really, one of the ones that had been caught in the bottleneck, so to speak.
Right. And, it's really about just working through the problems and not letting the problem fester, finding out what needs to be done, pushing through the bottleneck, right?
Sure.
And sometimes you just have to push as hard as you possibly can. I think everybody wants to do a good job in public service. It's just that there's so much going on that sometimes the priorities get a little bit mixed up, and you just got to focus on what we need right now, what's in front of us, and then get back to your project or whatever it is you're working on. So our team is real good at being flexible, and flexing one way or another.
Well, and I don't want to discount your leadership in that too, just having the experience coming from the Corps and having lived through that process. And I think it was
me a lot.
It was May. We had 3 significant storms through there, like 15 inches of rain. And just to tell a quick story, I was in the State House at the time, and we were right in the middle of deadline week. And I basically told them, hey, I told leadership, I've got to go. We've got a serious flood event going on. Back home, I was a former mayor of Jinx. And so as I'm driving back, I called the aquarium director, and he said, hey, we're trying to figure out, how to get the fish out at this point. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. We were built, 1 foot above the 100-year flood. You're in good shape. We don't need to move the fish anywhere. But once we pulled up to the aquarium, we're literally getting out, and my legislative assistant, Thomas Coors, who's now with Congressman Hearn's office, was with me, but we're walking in, the tornado sirens go on.
Right.
So this is how, we had storm after storm coming through. So here I'm going for a flood event, and I've got a tornado siren going on at the same time. As we're walking into the aquarium, we're walking down the kind of the main alleyway there, headed towards the shark tank.
Right.
And right on cue, he looks over to me and he said, Representative, we're going to see a real live Sharknado.
Right.
And so what a lot of people don't know is the actually safe room, the tornado safe room for the aquarium is the shark tank.
Wow. Okay.
So I guess, he was kind of,
could have been there.
It could have actually happened. I'm glad it didn't, and I hope it never does. But it was something that just kind of hit us both in that moment.
Great.
Like, wow, this is insane what's going on right now. It was a very traumatic event for the community. Really for the entire Arkansas River Basin.
Right.
Through that time, we flew with the National Guard down to Muskogee. Muskogee, I think at one point it was 5 miles wide for one section. A lot of people probably remember the batfish. They were afraid it was going to get loose, and that was a battering submarine back in the day.
Barge,
so they felt like that would probably not fare well, or the dam would not fare well if that thing came floating down and ran into it. When it comes to the incentive program, I think that's something we probably haven't talked about at all when it comes to these. We just talk about the big numbers. I wanted to kind of highlight the little numbers when it comes to this. So the voluntary buyout program, there's a couple of incentives. One is obviously with fair market value for the house.
Actually, that's a good point. To interrupt my boss. The fair market value is we asked in the plan to make sure that we use the value of the pre-disaster value, so people got the most money out of their house that we possibly could. And that's you got to put that kind of stuff in the plan to make sure that people get
that was huge.
What they need.
Because think about the value of your property after it's been flooded, after that neighborhood's been inundated. Your values are going to drop significantly. So just having the foresight to put that in there really helps. One, get them back the value of what their house is worth. In the time since 2019, obviously we've seen inflation go. So there's a next component, which is actually the gap between, what today's value is or what yesterday's value of the house was to what it's really going to take you to get into a similar house that's out of harm's way in a safer area. How much kind of swag is there with that gap? How?
Well, it's primarily with items in the plan that support additional functions for the homeowner. So, obviously a lot of it is economics, because historically people that are in floods, when they don't have support like this, they'll leave. They'll go somewhere else to a family member and wherever. So we want to keep them here because they're Oklahomans and we'll take care of them. But in the plan, things like rental assurance and support for the reimbursing them for renting a property or renting something while they're out, or other expenses that they may have for themselves and their family. So we reimburse those things, and that's really where the differences come from, on making sure that they're taken care of the whole process through, right to the end, through the demolition of the property and getting back to being whole, right?
And that brings us kind of to the end game when it comes to the demo of the property. We're looking at opportunities as, written into the contract that you said there's certain things that are written in there. Part of that is that you can no longer develop on these properties. You can no longer build in perpetuity for good reason. We don't want to repeat of what just happened.
Yes, sir.
We've invested a lot of money to make sure that doesn't happen. But it still leaves a green space out there that needs to be maintained. The county maintains it, but there is an opportunity, and we're working at opportunities for the adjacent property owners who might want to utilize that property just to have that additional green space for their house, for their family to enjoy.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about
We're
that.
there, yeah. So thankfully, the plan has a couple options for the properties after they're demolished. So you're absolutely correct. You can't use it. There's criteria and things you can't do on the property, and it's pretty strict. So, but one of the options is a lease maintenance, which we're working on right now. So the district attorney's office helps us develop a form, and we're going to go out with the assistance of getting addresses from our folks in the county, the assessor's office and clerk's office, and put out letters to those folks and say, hey, you've got this property adjacent to you. If you want to maintain it, you can lease it from the county for as long as you maintain it in I
think it's a great opportunity.
Appearance positive state, I guess, is
sure
what I would say. And then there's also some other options, like the county could sell the property. That's in the plan as well, which that would probably be more like a second step. But right now, it's all about making sure we're fiscally accountable for the funds that we do have. And so we want to make sure that we can move these properties to another phase, whether it's maybe a quick deed to the city that's there for a park or whatever they may want, a dog park or something like that. So, that's all the things we're trying to work on now that we're in that phase. And it's kind of exciting, right? We're wrapping it up, so to speak, in these areas, and those communities will have some nice spaces.
Well, and you think of Katrina, you think of houses that were flooded that were really abandoned.
Right.
So
It's
just
awful.
to get that out of the neighborhood, to get the neighborhood back to a state where, people are proud to drive through it. You're not having to see those houses that have been sitting for so long. So just really appreciate your efforts there, Deputy Chief. Any questions for Emergency Manager?
Well, we pretty much covered everything, but maybe just a quick recap on what it is. You go in, how do you access the program? We've talked about how much money is left and everything. Just a quick recap of how things work exactly.
So I think the biggest thing is that no matter what the disaster is, there's always some kind of assistance, whether it's a response or it's a mitigation later. So contacting your emergency manager is probably your first point, and then your elected officials, right? So elected officials drive all this and making sure that things are moving the way, and the emergency manager helps execute it. So for folks that are in Tulsa County, it's go to Tulsa County Buyout Program. Just Google it up. Has all the instructions. My phone number's on there, 918-630-6516. I'm a public official, so people should just have it. And then you can call, and we'll put you in contact with people that can process the paperwork for them and walk them through everything they need to do. Another thing is we get comments back from the public about this, that, or the other, and we welcome those, right? So any way we can get feedback to try to help us be better, we appreciate that as well. So.
Well, Bill Smiley, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Can't thank you enough for helping these people out and getting these applications moving. Great information today. Hey, don't be afraid to reach out and apply. There's still funds that are out there.
Absolutely.
As you heard today, we're hoping to get more and bring to Tulsa County and help those that have been in harm's way and get them out of those flood-prone areas. TulsaCounty.org is our social media. Thank you for joining the Tulsa County Line podcast. We thank Ethan and all our communications teams for getting this set up. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Thank you, Bill. Have a great week.